Welcome to a look inside my old-fashioned woodworker's tool cabinet. Ever since we bought our off-grid property in Arizona, we've been busy with construction projects. First we had to build our place, and then we helped our son finish building his. Finally, we were able to finish our shipping container barn/shop. With all that done, I was ready to turn my attention back to some fun hobbies. I started this project several years ago and I've been working on it off and on. It was exciting to be able to get back to it. There was a lot of planning that went into the design. First I had to select the wood and I chose cherry and hard sugar maple. I decided on a wall mount cabinet design and I drew my inspiration from an example I found of a tool cabinet in an old early 1900s catalog. I wanted it to be large enough to hold a full set of hand woodworking tools, and so I made it 36 inches wide by 48 inches tall by 16 inches deep. It has two doors in the front that swing open, and when they're fully open, it is a full 6 feet wide. When I got back to it, it was mostly built already. I just needed to make places to hang all the tools and then finish it. It took a long time to figure out how to arrange and attach everything. Then I had to make all the tool holders. To do that, I used mostly cherry and metal. Over the years, I've been collecting and restoring antique woodworking tools. It's a process that I really enjoy, and all of the tools that are in this cabinet, with a few little exceptions, are antique tools that I've collected and restored myself. And now for a look at the tool chest. Building your own tool chest is somewhat of a traditional woodworker's rite of passage. In this video, we'll take a look inside my tool chest, which has been several years of part-time work in the making, and all the tools that fill it. We'll start with the tool chest empty, and as I place the tools, I'll tell you a little bit about them. First, I'm placing my set of mortising chisels. They're made by Marples, which is a great brand, and they have lovely boxwood handles and an elegant form. I use a rubber mallet to strike these with so as not to mar the handles since they don't have a protective ring on the top. Next up are my framing chisels. They're made by a Douglas manufacturing company around the late 1800s, which I believe was a precursor to the James Swan Company, which is one of my favorite chisel makers. They're socket-type chisels, and I've made new handles for them and fitted them with rings. The wood that I used is dogwood, and it's one of my favorite woods to use for handles. Dogwood has an extremely smooth, creamy texture, and it's very hard. It really makes for a lovely light-colored wood. Below I have a basic set of carving chisels. The first 5 here are made by Buck Brothers, and they're nice radius chisels. They have the original handles in applewood. Applewood was a favorite handle material for toolmakers in the late 1800s and early 1900s, used in chisels and saws primarily. These next 3 chisels are scoop chisels. They're made by D.R. Barton, a wonderful old maker, great steel, and they also have the original applewood handles. I have here a small jeweler's vise that comes in handy from time to time. I've restored the original handle and dyed it red. I also dyed the handles of these rasps red to match, kind of have a red theme going through the toolbox. These are hand-stitched rasps, which generally offer better longevity and performance. Below I have my hand-powered drilling tools. This is a set of James Swan auger bits, made to be used with a hand brace. Above that, I have a couple of adjustable auger bits. These are nice because you can adjust them to any size you want and use them over and over again. They're also made to be used with a hand brace. And in this wooden holder, I have a set of giblet bits and a couple of extra tools for the hand brace. And I'll finish off this side with one more rasp and an antique level that was given to me by a friend. It belonged to his grandfather, and I'm honored to have it. It was a real pleasure to restore. Moving over to the other side, I have an old dovetail saw, tenon saw, and carcass saw. The first 2 saws are made by Richardson Brothers, and the last is made by Henry Diston & Sons. They are all hardback hand saws with applewood handles, made in the early 1900s. I also have an old hole saw that I've managed to fit into this corner here. Further up on this side of the tool chest, I have my measuring tools. Here you can see a large variety of calipers, mostly made by Starrett or the Lufkin Tool Company. Next up, I have several old screwdrivers with wooden handles painted black. That's the way they originally came. I also have a couple of awls. This black one here is made by James Swan. It's old and a little bit rare. The next one is just a nice ordinary specimen that I've dyed red to kind of match the rest of the cabinet. And these last two tools are made for turning split nuts. And I crafted these from scratch myself using old drill bits and made the handles out of mahogany. Next up, I have a couple of antique tape measures. They're really long, so they're good for longer measuring. They also have the crank-in mechanism, which is fun to use. Up in this corner, I have a set of 3 squares. They have the lovely old rosewood handles with brass accents. And as a bit of a centerpiece on this wing of the cabinet, I have a 12-inch combination tri-square set. It's a well-preserved, older version from Starrett. Up in the left-hand corner, I have a sliding bevel and a marking gauge, both made of rosewood with the brass accents to kind of match the squares on the other side. Down the left side, I have a couple of old-school fold-out measuring sticks. They're made of boxwood and brass. For the center section, I've made a couple of freestanding stands that fit in the bottom here. The one on the right holds my hand saws, and the one on the left holds my planes. And here's a close-up look at some of the beautiful handles that I've either restored or made myself. This last saw is a beautiful thumbhole saw that was given to me by a friend, and I carved a rattlesnake into the handle. I have a nice little pistol grip saw that I hang on the side here, and then the rest of my hand saws go into the rack. I have several different types of saws in here as well as different lengths. I have a good selection of crosscut saws as well as rip saws and some hybrid saws. The really long saws are good for working on bigger objects, and then the shorter saws are good for, they're called bench saws, and they're good for doing smaller work. Most of these saws date back to the late 1800s or early 1900s, some of them coming close to the time of the Civil War. Most of these saws were made in America and have applewood handles, but I do have some European saws made in England that have a lovely beech handle. I really enjoy the elegant form and beauty of these old saws. Back during this time period, it was the golden age of saws, and they were really making some beautiful hand tools, and I really appreciate them. On the left, I have a variety of planes to handle most woodworking tasks. The first is a roughing plane, and then I have a fence that attaches to my larger planes and allows me to get nice square edges when I'm planing the edge of a board. Next is a rabbet plane with a couple of accessories. It has a little guide that goes with it, and so I keep them all here in one place. And below that, I have a couple of hand planes. These are small planes that are made to be used in one hand. They fit great in your apron pocket or just the pocket of your pants. They're nice to have around the shop. And then I have 3 larger hand planes, all made by Miller Falls. I enjoy the red wood on the Miller Fall planes. That's the color that they came with originally. They also have a unique cap that holds the plane blade in place. It has 2 parts, and it holds the blade in really securely. And I finish off with the ever-useful router plane. Above, I have a space dedicated to some of my favorite chisels. On this side, I have a set of D.R. Barton carving chisels. These have different radiuses and scoops, and are really handy for a lot of different projects. D.R. Barton is one of my favorite early makers of carving chisels. They made all kinds of chisels, but their carving chisels are really beautiful. The form is really elegant. The steel is just top quality. It really holds an edge. They're just really beautiful tools, and these have the original applewood handles. This is a simple and beautiful old boxwood spoke shave, and above that I'm placing my James Swan chisels. James Swan is my very favorite old world toolmaker. They made amazing chisels. The steel is the best I've ever found as far as holding an edge, and the form and function are just beautiful and elegant. I really love these. This is a set of bench chisels, and they have the socket type handle. This set took me a long time to put together. I had to search and scour the internet for these, and it took me several years to put this set together. None of these came with handles, so I had to make an entirely new set. I made them to be replicas of the original James Swan handles, so they're the exact size and shape that they would have been originally, but the material I've chosen is different. I have used a burly figured maple for these instead. A drawbar always comes in useful for debarking and roughing in material, and this is an example made by James Swan as well. Along the top here I have some axes and hammers. This particular axe has an offset handle so that you can shave up close to something, and it's offset for a left-handed person. I also have a framing hammer and a Miller Falls brace. On the other side, I have a carving hatchet that I've handled in some of my favorite dogwood, as well as a small shaping hammer and a ball peen hammer, both with dogwood handles. And I finish up this side with a Miller Falls egg beater drill. And taking the place of honor in the center, I have a tapered ream and my hand-carved ram's head mallet. And there you have it, a complete woodworker's tool cabinet filled with antique woodworking tools. And here I am closing it up, and to keep it closed, I fabricated a custom Art Deco eagle locking mechanism. And for the curious, here's a look at the side. I have a metal bracket reinforcing the cleat that goes all the way across and holds it in place.
That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching and liking and subscribing.